We found out we were pregnant in November of 2015. We had a great pregnancy. Everything was measuring as it should. I was feeling great and feeling healthy.
And then when we found out we were having a boy, I started crying, and I was super excited to have a boy.
And that's when it became really real for us, that we could picture our lives going forward with our son, and that's when we decided to name him Connor.
It was just normal until I think it was a Sunday night where she wasn't feeling well.
It was like any other normal weekend. Kendall was doing some yard work outside. I took an afternoon nap, and when I woke up from my nap, I felt a weird pressure, and Connor felt really low. I was able to fall asleep, and about 11 o'clock, I woke up to use the bathroom, and there was blood, and it was a lot. And that's when it hit me that something was wrong. And I immediately started crying. I went and woke Kendall up and said, "We have to go to the hospital now." They checked us into our room, and I think the OB at that point was confident that my contractions were going to stop on their own.
But they didn't slow down at all. I was terrified.
At that point, we didn't know if we were going to get to meet Connor alive. They gave me a practice push, and I pushed 3 times, and he was out. And my eyes were closed. And I remember Kendall saying, "Open your eyes, he's here, Connor's here." And then I opened my eyes, and I heard him crying, and his little arm was stretched straight up in the air, and his little feet were tucked under his butt like a frog. And, we got to see him for a few seconds.
I don't think I really understood that a child could live at that early gestation. And so when he came out screaming, I was thrilled.
And the mood just immediately lightened up. He was stable. They brought him over to my bed, and I was able to stick my hand in and touch his little arm and say hello and meet my son for the first time. And that was such a cool moment. I was really scared at first because he's so tiny and they're so fragile.
Nurses would come and go constantly, and the beeping was constant.
They taught us how to comfort him and do a hand swaddle, and the kind of touch that he will respond to the best. And it was really cool. That's all we wanted to do, was stand up there on each side of his bed and just hold him. I think it was always in the back of our mind that something could go wrong, so we were trying to just be present in every moment and soak up as much time with him as we could. And then we get to day 3, and I remember one of the doctors telling Kendall that, if we can get through the brain ultrasound, and if we can get him to not have a brain bleed, he's going to be in great shape.
Dr. Riley came in and closed the curtain to tell us, the awful news.
They sat us down, and they started to explain the brain and what different grades of brain bleeds there are and what that means for Connor. And he said Connor has a grade 3 and grade 4 brain bleed on both sides of his brain. And I remember thinking, okay, that's bad. And then he paused and he said, he's not going to survive this. It was the most terrible feeling in the world to hear that your son is not going to survive this, and knowing that it could have been something that we could have prevented had we been able to stop my preterm labor. We spent the rest of the day trying to squeeze in a lifetime with our son. So we each took a turn and held him for about an hour and a half each, I think. And when they handed him to me, it was such an overwhelming feeling because I'm getting to hold my child for the first time, but it's also going to be the last. And, I just told him how much I loved him and that he would always be with us. And just, you try and just jam pack a lifetime into a couple hours. Just had a really good day. And as sad as that day is, looking back, it's one of my favorite days because that's when we really got to live with him. We first heard about the March of Dimes actually 2 days before I went into labor. We had gone to a baby expo and we walked by the March of Dimes table. And then a few days later, we find out exactly what March of Dimes is and how important they are. I looked on the website and realized that March for Babies was 2 weeks away. And we decided instantly, let's start a team. Let's do this for Connor. As we walked and got to see all of the signs along the walk route with pictures of other families and babies and their success stories, it became more of a happy occasion. And it was so fun to see all the kids there and all the different team shirts. And for me, that's when I realized I'm not alone in this. Kendall and I aren't alone in this. We do this for Connor and in Connor's name, but we also do this for our future children as well.
We really feel like we want to take our sad story and put a spin on it and try and use it to make other people's lives better.
Whether it's, someone, a coworker or a friend of a friend or a family member, someone has a connection to preterm birth or birth defects or infant loss.
That's why we encourage anybody to join any team. Don't join our team, join any team. Make your own team. Invite people to join your team.
Please donate to our team and help us put an end to preterm birth.